A federal judge says she'll decide by Thanksgiving whether to throw out the criminal indictments of former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Comey is charged with lying to Congress, and James is charged with mortgage fraud. Both have pleaded not guilty. Now their attorneys just finished arguing that the Trump-installed prosecutor who charged them was appointed illegally. Let's bring in Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas and ABC legal contributor James Sample for more. Pierre, what's the latest from court?
Well, the hearing took about 90 minutes. It's over. And the judge had some pointed questions for the prosecution, seemed to be skeptical of whether this appointment was lawful, had some questions about the the prosecutor's actions, the Justice Department's actions. And again, this all centers around whether Lindsey Halligan was appropriately appointed to the job. Now, this ruling could come before Thanksgiving. At least the judge indicated that she wanted to do so. And the key here is whether this case can move forward and whether she could do two things. One, rule that the case can go forward and that Lindsey Halligan is okay to be the U.S. attorney prosecuting it. She could take her out of the case and let the indictment proceed, or she could dismiss the entire case. There's a lot of critical things to happen coming up soon.
James, Comey's attorney is arguing that Pam Bondi's memo to retroactively give Lindsey Halligan power shows she didn't have that power at the time of Comey's indictment. And Letitia James's attorney is arguing the DOJ's logic means, and I'm quoting here, that Steve Bannon or Elon Musk could retroactively become U.S. attorneys. What do you make of those arguments?
Well, I think that the arguments speak to just how unprecedented this entire scenario is, Diane. I mean, we use that word a lot. We've used it a lot in the last 9-10 months of this administration, but really it is truly unprecedented. If you think about the circumstance we're dealing with here, you've got, in essence, two defendants jointly filing a motion here, even though they are in totally separate cases. And the two defendants who are filing that motion are the former director of the FBI and the current attorney general of the state of New York. And with respect to that argument, I think what they're arguing is essentially that, this is all unconventional, and the idea that Pam Bondi could retroactively sort of resuscitate something that was invalid at the time, if in fact the court finds it was invalid, and that finding has not yet been made, but I think this is sort of a defensive fallback maneuver on the Justice Department's part, which is to say the idea here is if, as Pierre said, Halligan's appointment is found to be unlawful, the Department of Justice certainly still wants to have the indictments go forward and have those not be disqualified as well.
And James, the Justice Department says the law gives the Attorney General authority to appoint U.S. attorneys, and nothing says they're limited to one appointment. How strong is that argument?
Well, I don't think that that's particularly strong ground for the Justice Department, Diane. I think actually in 2006, there was a one-year experiment in which Congress, as part of a small package, a small insertion into a large package of legislation to reauthorize the Patriot Act, essentially gave interim appointments an unlimited cap. There was no cap on how long you could have interim appointments or how many of them you could have. Congress quickly realized the error of its ways and passed legislation. The vote on that legislation in 2007, after only 1 year, was 94-2. That's as bipartisan as things can get in America, 94-2. And the idea was Congress didn't want to be sidelined, and so they wanted to reinsert that 120-day cap that's at issue here.
Pierre, what are the next steps here?
Well, again, I think, as my colleague just pointed out, this is an extraordinarily unusual set of circumstances. And the notion that the sequence of events, President Trump calling for Comey to be indicted, calling for Letitia James to be indicted, the previous U.S. attorney, acting U.S. attorney, being removed basically from the job, and then Lindsey Halligan being appointed in short order, and then quickly filing these indictments. So much is going to depend on what these judges do. Most of it will be appealed by either side, but we're truly about to witness some very consequential matters.
Pierre Thomas, James Sample, thank you both.